industry gets a bad rap just because everybody, if you're successful, everybody sold their soul. Nah, not at all. And then another thing is, if you're successful, what does that look like to you? Because of course, oh yeah, you have $1 million, so you you got $1 million deal, so you must be successful. I know a couple cats with $1 million deals who were literally, you sitting at the bar drinking, telling me that they were thinking about committing suicide. So I'm looking at them like, bro, just give me $100,000 and I'm good. Like, I'm like, bro, I don't got half of that, and I'm not thinking, okay. So, you know, success is what people, is what do you feel, what does success define? What do you define success as? What's the name of the sneaker? The name of the sneaker, if I remember, these are the Uptempos. They're the Uptempos, I believe. Is it Scotty or Dennis? Scottie Pippen or Dennis Rodman? One of the Chicago Bulls used to wear these consistently. I think it was Scotty. I think it was one of Scotty's shoes. But as a kid, I was super sheltered. So as an adult, my parents didn't always buy me kicks that I wanted. So I always was like, as an adult, if I see a kick that I wanted when I was a kid, I'm getting it. Here we are. And I got these on tour. Walking through the random mall in Richmond or something. I was like, oh, getting those. And here it is disintegrating. Where have I toured? As a musician, I have toured all over the United States, Russia, Cuba, Bahamas, headed to the Virgin Islands in about 3 weeks from now. So we've been all over the place. The most notable artists I've toured with in these sneakers, recently I did a couple spot dates with Donnie McClurkin, and I wore these the whole time, so I had these shoes and a pair of dress shoes, which were church shoes, and it was wear these when we're not in church, and then switch into the church shoes, and then as soon as we out of church, throw these back on, just because I couldn't pack a crazy huge bag and everything. So Donnie McClurkin is probably the most noticeable artist I've worn these sneakers with. The sneakers I got on right now, which are some Chuck Taylors, that's a whole nother story. This thing is disintegrating. It's doing its job though. It is cleaning these soles, man. Soles were black when I started. Dark black when I started. The importance of being a musician from DC. I think the importance is just representing the legacy that already came from DC. There's been many amazing musicians and artists who've come out of this city, and just continuing in that legacy. When people hear that you're from DC, they automatically think of us. They automatically think you're of a certain caliber of musician and artist. They don't. You come with a, okay, well, clearly you're from DC, so you're not a slouch, and that comes from just being DC is one of the most. I always say this. It's one of the most talented cities in the world, for real. DC is really one of the most talented cities in the world. Finding just different musicians, singers, spoken word artists, MCs, actors, actresses. DC has everything. Dancers. DC is a hub for it all. So being a musician, being a drummer from DC, it's an honor. Just being able to just continue that legacy, the rich legacy that we have of musicians. Gonna try this orange side now. Like this. Oh yeah, that's where the magic comes in. What does self-care look like on tour? That's an amazing question. And I say that because recently I had to reevaluate myself and my life and what self-care looked like to me. So it's a really good question. Self-care for me, I'm 33 years old. I turned 34 in 7 days. 33-year-old on tour is not the same as when I was 19 on tour, where I could stay out up till 3, 4 in the morning, go out and just hang out and be doing whatever and not sleep and still do the job effectively. At 33, most of the time I'm usually on stage, and after I leave the stage, you can find me in 2 places: a restaurant or back in my hotel room. I'm relaxing. I'm taking as much time to just relax and chill as possible. So self-care for me is definitely just taking it easy, not doing too much, like just relaxing, man. Just resting as much as I can when I'm not doing the job. And still getting time to go out and explore and see what's around and who's around, but knowing when to cut it off at a certain time, and not just because we here and we got a 4 a.m. lobby call or a 5 a.m. lobby call doesn't mean you have to stay up till 4 or 5 a.m. It's like, man, go to sleep, get some rest. Make that lobby call a little bit easier. So definitely taking time to rest during the downtime. That's what self-care looks like for me on tour. Have I ever had a mentor in this business, in the music business? I have. I am still blessed to have them as well. I have 2 main consistent mentors that I speak to on a weekly basis. One I speak to on almost a daily basis. Me and him are in 2 bands together right now. So we speak on a daily basis just about music and just life and just different things. My other mentor, we speak probably on a weekly basis, just checking in, and he's always encouraging me to keep going and doing stuff and not to be me, be true to who I am as a musician and not just conform. He's one of those, he's one of the jazz cats that has seen a lot and has played with a lot of people. So he's one of those guys who's always encouraging me, like, yo, keep going and keep what makes you you. Don't conform to what everybody wants you to be, but behind the drum set, be who you are. And I really appreciate that guy. My two mentors, Michael Bowie, he's a bass player from Washington, D.C., and Robert Stocks. He's a saxophonist, vocalist, piano player, arranger, all of that from Washington, D.C. Both of them are amazing musicians, amazing men, amazing husbands, fathers. So I've always learned if you want to have somebody mentor you who's doing what you want to do or who's already done what you want to do. So those are probably two of my main mentors. This one looks way better than that one. All right, so with this serum thing, I see why. Oh yeah, we in business. It really is like a toothbrush. Man, you got me thinking. DC really does have a rich legacy of musicians, man. And I'm super blessed to know a lot of them. Who have I learned the best lessons from on tour? From a business standpoint, I've probably learned the best lessons from Genuine. Even to this day, like I'm not playing with him right at the moment, but G is still on tour, and G hasn't brought out a new record since I was in middle school. And for him to still be touring off those same records 20 years later, selling out places as big as the Anthem and Fillmore and stuff like that, he's really good at his business. And just telling people, one of the things that he was always saying is show them what you're worth and show them why they need to pay you what they need to pay you. Because you can tell people all day, like, yeah, this is my number, this is my price, and this is how much I charge. But what that mean? Sometimes you gotta tell people, you gotta show people, hey, this is what I can bring to the table. This is why I charge what I charge. And this is the show that I can put on. So I've learned that from him. Musically, I've probably learned the most from Michael Bowie. And Michael Bowie being a bass player, that relationship between a bass and drums has to be super locked, super consistent, super close. So Mike Bowie is probably the one I've learned the most musically from as an artist. Is there community in being an artist? Yes, but you have to find it. It's not, and sad to say, it's not always a super welcoming thing. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody who's an artist is trying to do the same thing. Everybody's trying to make it, or what say, everybody's trying to be known, everybody's trying to be noticed. So music is one of those things where you basically, you put in the time, you put in the work, and you go as far as you want to go. based off of how much work and how much time and energy and effort you put into it. But you're not the only one vying for people's attention, people's spots. And in DC sometimes get a bad notion. Some of the artists in DC get a bad notion of DC being like a crabs in a barrel place in the area, and sometimes it can come off like that. But even recently, like a little before the pandemic, and even after the pandemic, definitely it's become a lot more personal, and a lot more people are just welcoming, people are just more inviting. And it's because like we all went through something. We all had to like overcome something. We all dealt with some crap. So it's just easier to be nice and be more welcoming and be more supportive. That was one of the biggest things. Sometimes you just feel like you have the support of whoever was the hot artist. Like, and I've done concerts where I play for the headliner, and I've done concerts where I play for the opener. And I would say before pandemic, I could tell like how people weren't always as dedicated to the whole lineup. You see, if you were playing for the opener, you'd probably be playing for like 25, 30, 40 people maybe. And then if you're playing for the headliner, you're playing to a packed room. Now after the pandemic, it's like, yo, doors open at 7. You got a packed room at 7 because everybody just remember what they couldn't do when they couldn't go to a show. So it's like, hey, yo, we're not gonna take this for granted because who knows what happened? We might not be here again. So let's soak it all up. Let's receive it all. So, but the community is there. You just have to find it, and I feel like it's way more easier to find now than it was even like 5 years ago. Honestly, before, like I date things now, especially with music. BP, AP. Before pandemic, after pandemic. Before the pandemic, it was, hey man, I don't need you. I can do what I want. I can get on by myself. I'll make it by myself. Now, and you'll see it's a lot more collaboration, a lot more, hey bro, you got a show? Cool. I want to do a show on that date too. Let's throw a show together. Let's co-headline it. I actually recently just did a gig a couple days before Christmas. I was playing for Bobby Michelle. She's an amazing up-and-coming artist in DC. She's an amazing singer, amazing dancer, and she co-headlined a gig with a rapper. And I was like, this is what it's all about. Like, I don't know if both of you guys could have sold out Songbird by yourselves, but together it came very close. If it wasn't sold out, I think it was like damn near close. So that's what it's all about. Just collabing and making it better. Yeah. This is this. The pad is cool. TikTok is alright. But this is right here. That's it. When I clean the other shoe, I'm just using that. Is there a bad rep that comes with being a part of the music industry? It can be if you're misinformed or miseducated about certain things. I mean, there are a lot of people who believe certain things about the music industry, and not saying that those things don't happen, like the Illuminati. Like let's just say that. The Illuminati. A lot of people believe, oh yeah, if you're a music industry, they're confronting you. They're trying to get you. They're trying to get you to sign your name in blood on a dotted line. And I always make this joke with my pops, because my pops was one of the first people to be like uberly pressed and bring up the Illuminati and like, hey man, you gotta be careful, man. And I'm like, bro, I don't make enough noise for them to be putting. they ain't checking for me, bro. They ain't checking for me. They not checking for my squad. Cause my squad, we out here making this music, playing these shows, and we going home. They ain't checking for us. And then like I always made this joke with my pops. I was like, yeah, man. I mean, cause if anything, they wanted to sacrifice. I'm giving your information. I'm like, yo, take my dad. And of course that made him get red in the face, and he took it super seriously. I'm like, I can't believe you. And I'm like, bro, shut up, man. Illuminati ain't checking for me. But it's little things like that, like, because you hear what a whole bunch of people say instead of being like informed and checking it out and doing the research and being in places yourself, that you just get misinformed, man. And it usually happens a lot, like in the industry, outside the industry, but definitely in the industry. The industry gets a bad rap just because everybody, if you're successful, everybody sold their soul. Nah, not at all. And then another thing is, if you're successful, what does that look like to you? Because of course, oh yeah, you have $1 million, so you got $1 million deal, so you must be successful. I know a couple cats with $1 million deals who were literally, we sitting at the bar drinking and telling me that they were thinking about committing suicide. So I'm looking at them like, bro, just give me $100,000 and I'm good. I'm like, bro, I don't got half of that, and I'm not thinking, okay. So, you know, success is what people, is what do you feel, what is success defined? What do you define success as? That's what it basically is. And yeah, some people just get a bad rap. Some people just believe everything that they hear instead of actually doing the research and looking it up and going. I mean, these parties, like, some are super exclusive, but some of these parties, yo, you can get in, you just pull up, look right. One of my mentors was like, yo, act like you're supposed to be there. I've gotten to the parties and stuff that my name wasn't on the list. I was just sharp as hell, like dressed to the T. I look good. And the person who was checking for names, they looking at me like, yo, you look really good. I'm like, thank you, I appreciate it. Walk right in. Don't care what my name was. Then ask what my name was. Like, you just look nice. I'm like, okay. Act like you're supposed to be there. Don't just walk around and be shy and be scared. Nah, go in. I did that at Mochella a couple years ago. You remember when Backyard did Mochella? Down. All those people were around. I was like, man, I'm not about to like stand back here. I was like, excuse me. Going to the stage. Walk right to the stage. Walked right up to Buggy, who was sitting down. He was like, oh, Stan, what's up, man? I'm like, what up? Hugged him, still right there for the entire show. The entire time they were playing. I was like, yo, I want to see what's going on. I ain't trying to be around all these crazy people. So you act like you're supposed to be there, people get out the way for you. So yeah, it gets a bad rap, but you just gotta inform yourselves, man. Do the research, look stuff up. Don't always go by what you hear. And this shoe was a little bit more dusty crusty, so I had to put that elbow grease in this one, but yeah. How important is presentation in my industry? Presentation is everything. Sad to say, sometimes people will not listen to you and write you off based off of how you look, based how you come off before you even hit a note, before I play one drum. That's why, I mean, I was actually just talking to my mentor about that. That's where the older jazz cats got like wearing their like their good suits, dressing up to a T. And some people are like, well, why are you dressing up like that? I'm like, yo, we about to do some serious work right now. We want you to take it seriously. We want you to hear us and know that we put a lot into this, not just pity-patting around and just bullshitting on our instrument. We're actually doing the work. So they got dressed. They dressed up. They look good. And did that old Deion Sanders. You look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good, they pay good. He was talking about football, but that goes with music too, man. Like, and that was his whole thing. That was the whole thing. So presentation is a huge part of it. Not coming to the gig looking raggedy, looking like you don't care. I've actually gotten gigs, and I've seen other people fired from gigs, not based off of what they can play or what they sound like, but how you dress, how you smell, like appearance, first impressions are everything. So makes a difference. Definitely makes a difference. Presentation is a huge thing. And then that's just on the note of like the presentation of an actual show, of putting together an actual show for an artist and making that show keep somebody's attention, captivate somebody like that. That's a whole thing in itself. That's why one of the greatest entertainers of our time is Beyonce. And don't get me wrong, Beyonce is an amazing singer, but she puts on a hell of a show, and that presentation is A1. That her band, from her band to her dancers to her background vocalists, like it's top of the line, and that's why people are paying top dollar to see her, because it's an experience. And that's what a good presentation brings forth, an amazing experience. And an amazing experience, people eat that up and come to that every time. And that's something I always just like tell my band, tell my friends, like when we're playing, I'm like, hey, somebody's leaving their house. Somebody's leaving their crib to come see us play. So don't just let's give them an experience, man. Like, especially if we want to step on stage. Let's make it worth it. Make them leaving their crib worth it. Because for me, the worst experience I can ever have is leaving my house to go see a concert or something, and when I'm there, the whole time I'm thinking, damn, I should have stayed home. I could have stayed home. I could have watched this on TV like later on. That's terrible. That's a terrible feeling, and that's something that I never want people to feel when they come to see a show that I'm playing drums at, or that I've helped arrange or music direct. I'm like, I don't want anybody to think, oh man, I could have stayed home for this. So presentation is definitely everything. This stuff is like the real deal. This actually might be better than Jason Mark stuff I use. Whoop. Did I have any idea that these shoes would take me to where I am today? Nah. Not at all. And I can say that for any pair of shoes, honestly. Being a musician, like I said, I'm 33. I didn't start believing I could be a musician until I was 18. And that's when another close friend of mine, who I could say was another mentor, and he's actually a drummer, a guy by the name of William Brew. He used to play drums at my church when I was a kid, and he was the guy who I watched coming up. Like, he was playing every Sunday, so I was watching him, and he wouldn't really give me like different lessons or anything. He would just tell me, like, if I had a gig and I'm like, hey, they want to pay me this, he would tell me, like, that's not enough. And he would also offer me my first like real paycheck on a gig when and I say my first real paycheck because it was the first real money that I ever made. Like, before he paid me, like, he got me that gig, the most I ever made from a gig playing at church or playing anywhere was like $150. And at 18, matter of fact, no, I was 17 because like I said, my birthday's in the beginning of the year, so I was 17 at the time because it was New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve service at church. I played for the youth band and everything, and after I played for the youth band, he asked me, he was like, do you want to sound check for the choir? I was like, yeah, I sound check. I play for the choir. I can sound check for him. Well, I was like, I'll sound check for him. Sound check went really well. He was like, hey, man, sound check, you sound good. You want to play for him? I'm like, sure. Like, get to play with the OGs and everything. So, yeah, I'll play. And played the gig and everything. He was like, come see me on Tuesday. Come see me. Went and saw him on Tuesday, and he gave me a check for playing 2 songs. A check was $1,000. And at 17, you give a 17-year-old a $1,000 check who ain't never made any type of other money at all. I looked at him. First thing I looked at him, I was like, "Yo, I think you gave me the wrong check." And he was like, "Oh, is the wrong name?" I'm like, nah, my name is fine. This amount is wrong, because I was so used to getting checks for $150, at least like $100. I was like, "Oh, I'm sure you guys only meant to pay me $100, and you just added an extra zero." He was like, "Nah, that's right. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year." And he was like, and he just closed the door to his office. I was like, I knocked back on the door. I'm like, wait, so this is right? I was like, this is the right check? And he was like, yeah. He was like, you can make this type of money playing music, being a musician? And he was like, yeah. Sometimes, he was like, more, for real. Cats make more money than that playing. And I was like, I could really be a professional musician. Mind you, I'm a senior at Duke Ellington. Before that, my grades in like my music theory classes and stuff were usually around like B's and C's. And it was literally, I was just doing whatever to get by in the class. And when he told me that I could like make that type of money being an adult, like being a full-time musician, that changed everything. I started sitting in the front of the class, like soaking up everything. I remember we had like 5 straight tests in like 3 weeks, and my theory teacher came up to me and was like, "What happened to you? Where have you been?" And I'm like, "What you mean?" She was like, "I've been here every class." She was like, "No, I know. What happened to you over the break?" She was like, "You've done like a complete 180. Like, you care. It's like, what happened?" And I just looked at her, I was like, oh, prior to this, I didn't know that you could play music full time. So I thought I was gonna have to get I thought I was gonna have to go to college and get like a real job or be an engineer or something. Like, I wasn't gonna be able to just be a musician. But I was like, I played a gig and I got paid like some crazy money. And if that's what I could get paid for that, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Because I was like, I love playing drums. I love doing what I'm doing. So if I can do this and that be it. I'm down. Like, I do whatever it takes. And she just laughed at me. But that was the mindset. And like, I started taking like my classes more seriously, started taking everything more seriously, even down to like I took playing and practicing more seriously. I took buying drum gear seriously, like to the point. Remember, I was super sheltered as a kid. My parents didn't like buy me kicks and like all these clothes and stuff. So I didn't start buying like clothes and like sneakers and stuff until I was like 25. That's around this age where I was like, okay, I got enough gear. I got enough like drum. I have drums. I have cymbals. I have that. Let me actually like start putting some idea and thought into all these shoes that I couldn't get as a kid. And so it's a yes and a no question. It's like, no, I didn't think these shoes would get me here, but yeah, I put in the work. I put in the work in other areas. So I knew sooner or later these shoes would get me somewhere. I didn't know they would get me where I am now completely. Like, I'm full-time music. Like, I pay my bills, still able to buy gear and shoes and stuff, and pay my bills and rent off of strictly just being a musician, strictly just playing drums. So, yeah, man, it's a blessing. So, yeah, I didn't think these shoes would get me here, but I knew I would get somewhere close. Because, hell, these shoes are on the list. I went to Duke Ellington. I graduated in 2008. What does it mean to go to Duke Ellington? Hilarious. Duke Ellington was the epicenter of my training. My dad's a bass player. So growing up, I could always play. Like, I started playing drums when I was 2, and my family on my dad's side is super musical. All the musicians and singers on that side of the family. So I had the ability to play, but I didn't start learning the actual craft and skill of what I was doing until I got to Duke Ellington, and that shaped me. Duke Ellington was what shaped me as a musician. It shaped my mindset as a musician now, because I had some of the toughest teachers at Duke Ellington. I actually had a teacher. The first time I ever had a teacher make me like cry was at Duke Ellington, and it was my drum professor, a guy named Francis Thompson. He literally looked at me and was like, "If you're gonna waste your time and mine, you can get the hell out of my class." And I looked at him and just like, "What?" He was like, "I know you're not practicing. You're not putting in the work. You're not putting in the time. You're being lazy, and you're going off of what your talent." He was like, "Hey, newsflash, you're not talented enough to make it." He was like, "You have to put in the work. Get out." And I left. And I went and sat in my locker. At the time, Duke Ellington had these huge lockers where, I remember when I was in 10th grade, somebody put me in the locker and closed it, but that's another story. I was a prank. It was a prank. But I was sitting in my locker, and I was just sitting there with like my head in the locker and just crying, because I'm like, ain't nobody ever told me that about my playing before. Like, it was like, I came from church. It was like, hey man, everybody in church, oh, you can play, you nice, you can. Then I have somebody who I like actually admired to be like, yo, you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as sweet as you think you are. Your talent ain't enough. It was a wake-up call. And I know for a fact I would have had that if I didn't go to Duke. And because of that, I have a mindset of like driving bands and stuff. Like, hey, let's put this work in. We're not gonna be perfect, but we're gonna be damn near close. Let's put this work in. Let's go. Let's hustle. Like, I remember I had a friend. He played keyboards in one of my bands, and we were talking about some things, and he was like, "Oh well, you know, man, it happens. It happens." And I remember saying, "No, it don't happen." And I don't want no it happens ass niggas in my shit. Like, no, it don't just not a it happens. Oh, it happens. No, it doesn't just happen. And if that's the mindset, you can unplug your keyboard right now and leave. And this is right before a gig. So part of that mindset that came from being at Duke Ellington of just, if we're going to give it our all, we give everything our all. We give the music our all. We give being on time. We give showing up presentable. All of that. That's in my DNA because of Duke Ellington. Like I said, we're not perfect, but we strive. We strive for perfection, and we strive to give people an experience. This is the day in my shoes.